Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Yes, today I'm not mobile today because last night was movie night with my awesome wife Melinda, and we had a great time watching Eternals. Great movie. The ending, I will say, makes you want to think. So if you're big into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, check it out. You may like it, you may not. Just go and see it and then decide for yourself. But again, it was a great date night last night. Welcome everyone to the Bringing Humanity Together live stream. This is one of three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today, because it's our goal, our mission, our purpose, our passion to not only both work with employers but also employees to bring humanity back to the workforce. And as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 o'clock. But we have a 15-minute meet and greet at 2:45 to 3. So please feel free to invite your friends, co-workers, colleagues, anyone who truly believes humanity can be uplifted and inspired of the great conversations that we have here today. And just remember, as always, Tuesday is hosted by Sharon Keir with Miss Sandy Chernoff. I host Conversation for Humanity on Wednesday, and Miss Carla hosts a Humanity Happy Hour on Thursdays. I just you jump on, whether it be on our Facebook business page, our LinkedIn Live, which is my personal page, or on our YouTube channel. Please let us know where you're watching from, and if you have any questions, show topics, comments, if you want to even join the conversation, the live links will be actually in those free platform posts in the comment section. So please go click to them today. I've already posted the ones for today and tomorrow. And just have to click those links and we'll get you onto the live stream, and we'll love to hear from you and everything like that. So, Miss Sandy, how are you doing today on Wonderful Wednesday?
Oh, I'm fine, but it's pouring here, Chris.
Pouring? Why?
No,
Why is it pouring?
no, pouring rain. It's absolutely pouring down rain outside. As I told you, this is kind of November in Vancouver, but it's been so rainy lately. We've hardly had any breaks. It was a little bit quiet this morning, but then it just started to pour again. So, anyway, Yale is coming home for lunch today. The last 2 days he had things to do, so he didn't come home until, like 3:30 or 4. But yeah, long days for him. I always feel bad when he has to do that. But yesterday he actually had a doctor's appointment. So we had to, go and talk to his doctor. I gave him a list of questions to ask his doctor, Chris.
Yeah.
Well, there are certain things going on. And I said, I want you to ask Monty these questions because I want to know and make sure that everything's okay. So he did. He took his list of questions with him and asked his doctor. I'm a little concerned because Monty is going to retire in about a year, and you can't get a GP, Chris. You just can't. And he's in a clinic, but I don't know if there's any doctors in there that are willing to take new patients, because I asked my doctor if he would take Yale on, and he said no, he's already got 2,000 patients. He doesn't want any more.
That's a lot of people.
It is. So because what happened when my doctor retired, he talked to all the other GPs in the clinic where he is.
Mm-hmm.
He gave us a list and he said, have a meet and greet with these people and you pick one. So I looked at him and I said, okay, which one do you think's the best, Isaac? So he told me that this guy that I'm going to now, he thought he was the best. And he actually took over where my doctor was. That's now his station. And I think he is pretty good. He seems to be on top of things. And whenever there's a question, like this thing with my neck, he right away referred me to an ENT guy and got me in, in a couple of days. So, I appreciate that. And, he looked at it and said, you need to have this seen by a specialist and you're probably going to have a biopsy. And I've had 2 days. And, and that's what my GP used to do before. He would always, give me an opinion, but he would send me to a specialist to get a specialist's opinion on things. So, but he told me, I have too many patients. I went, okay, never mind. I just thought I would ask.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, and that's the great thing when it comes to the power of asking. So when you just ask, then you'll know where you stand and where they stand
Mm,
in relevance to whatever that is. So asking is a powerful thing.
yep. But there are other physicians in the clinic where he is. And what I might ask him the next time I speak with him is if any of the other GPs would take a patient. So, it's just something we can look at because at least there are other GPs in that clinic.
Right?
Your GP has too many patients?
2,000, Carla.
2,000.
2,000.
He can't see you, or?
Oh, no, he sees me. But, I asked him if he would take Yale. And he said, no, he's already got too many patients. He's not taking any more patients.
Wow.
Well, what happened was, my doctor had been practicing for like 50 years, and he had a very large practice. And what he did is he spoke to all the GPs in the clinic before he retired and said that he was going to give their names to his patients. And I think most of them probably did the same thing I did, Chris, and asked him which one he thought was the best.
Yeah.
And
I would ask that.
yeah. And so I think,
Not you, who?
yeah, exactly. So I think most of his patients probably went to this physician. And Isaac had a huge practice, just huge. So, and a lot of his patients are elderly and have a lot of issues. So it is time consuming.
Yeah.
So, I'm not, because, I don't take any medications. And the only thing I need from him, I need two things from him. One, I need a requisition for my diagnostic mammogram once a year. And two, every couple of years, I need a prescription for the vitamin D that I take, because I take one tablet of vitamin D that's 10,000 international units once a week. So you need a prescription for that.
Yeah.
But other than that, I go and see him once a year, and he gives me, a requisition for the blood tests and yada, yada, yada. And he takes my blood pressure and, all those little things. But
Have a little chit chat and hey, how are you? How's the family?
But other than that, unless something crops up, which this thing on my neck was, and I've had phone appointments with him, but when this thing cropped up on my neck, I said, no, you've got to see this. So I said, okay, no problem. Talk to my receptionist and come and see me. So I did. And I said to him, well, it's nice to see you. I haven't seen you for a long time.
So how are you doing today?
Pardon?
You can have a biopsy, or do you have to go see a specialist to get that organized?
No, I've already had 2 biopsies, Carla. One of them had too much inflammation in it, and the other one had too much blood in it. So he couldn't really determine if it was cancerous or not. And because my family has a terrible cancer history, I said to him, because he said that thyroid cancer is not very invasive, and it usually people live with it forever. And I said, well, we have a terrible cancer history in our family, so I would just feel more comfortable if you took the nodule out. He said, no problem, I can do that. So I actually have an appointment now on November the 25th. I got a call yesterday from the nurse at the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she wanted to know if I was on any medications. And I said, no, I only take vitamins. She laughed. She thought that was really.
Wow. Really?
She said, you don't take any heart medications? I said, no, there's nothing wrong with my heart.
No. Don't take any cholesterol medicine.
No, I don't take any
medicine. I take a multivitamin. Yeah.
Well, I don't even do that. I take vitamin B12 about 3 times a week, and I take vitamin D once a week, and I take calcium, about 3 or 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I don't take any meds. I don't have any conditions.
Yeah.
Most of my friends have heart issues, and they all have, medications for high blood pressure, or one of my friends has a pacemaker. But I don't have any of those issues. And I told her that. She laughed.
Yeah, the average, I think the statistics are that the average older American has like 19 prescriptions.
Wow.
That is just crazy.
It is crazy. Well, I told her, I said, I have a healthcare background. And I said, I'll be very honest with you. I'm not very, I don't like drugs. She laughed. She thought that was really funny. I said, well, I don't need any, so it doesn't matter. But I said, it's just, I'm fortunate to be pretty healthy. And
Yeah.
even though I'm old, I'm still pretty healthy, and I eat healthy, and I exercise about an hour every day. And she said, really? And I said, yeah, I do. She said, good for you. And I said, yeah, well, it's one of those things that if you lose your fitness level at my age, it's very hard to get it back. And so I'm afraid to stop doing this.
Most people have never had it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've always been very active physically, Carla.
I know.
I participated I used to do track and field. I played basketball. I played field hockey. I played baseball. I used to do track and field. I used to do competitive skiing. And I was a certified ski instructor and used to teach on Thursday nights and on weekends. And, I've always done stuff. So, and I golf and, just different things. And I can't imagine not being physically active. I can't. And when I was doing all those things competitively, you got to train. I mean, you got to be in shape to do all those things. So I was always training for something. So, it's just a matter of what you get used to. And, I'm just more comfortable being fit. That's all. So we keep it up. And Yale actually leaves the house at about 6:30. He goes to the office, changes into his gym strip, and walks 1 block to the gym and works out for at least. Yep. Well, it's pretty good for him, Carla. He's 82 years old. He still works out. And then, fortunately, he comes back to his office. They have a really nice steam shower and a kitchen. And so he gets cleaned up and he has his breakfast and he's at his desk before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, it's really good. And it's a routine that I sort of started him when we got married. We used to run together. He'd never done anything like that in his life, but I made him. So neither of us.
How long have you guys been married? Almost 50 years, right?
It'll be 49 years on December the 16th. And your anniversary is on Friday, right, Chris?
That it is. That it is. I'll be with my wife since 1998, but I've been married to her since 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, and it took you a while to put a ring on it.
Yeah.
Well, I had to do it because I just didn't want to get burnt again. Because my first marriage, was only about 3 things: about being married, having a wedding, and having a baby, and that was pretty much the extent of it. That's what it was. So, lesson learned.
Yeah. Yale and I still have fun. I mean, we have a lot of things in common. And we still have a lot of fun. I mean, this pandemic has, kind of forced us to spend a lot of time together. And it's actually been fun, even though we mostly stay home and we haven't been doing a lot of things because you can't. But it hasn't been a problem. But I've heard of a lot of people who are getting divorced because they're just not used to spending this much time with their partner. And it hasn't been a very good experience for some of them.
Wow.
So, even a few of Elisa's friends are getting divorced. So, but it's sad. It's very sad. Yale and I have a lot in common, and there's so many things that we like. And I mean, we've always had fun together from the time we first started seeing each other. So, it just has always stayed that way. And he's really, I call him my sweet little man. He's very thoughtful, and like if I'm out with him and I admire something, Carla, like a piece of clothing or the jewelry, something. So my next birthday or our next anniversary, I get it because he pays attention, and he really does. He's very thoughtful, and he's very considerate, and he's pretty helpful, in terms of I cook, he cleans up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, my husband's the same way.
Well, and sometimes when I'm really busy, he'll even make the bed in the morning. So,
Okay, so the last thing I think about when I'm getting up in the morning, because I usually will get up and I want to go downstairs and spend some time with Jim before he goes off to work, I just don't even take time to make the bed. I say, I'll go up when I take my shower at 9 and And I know it's too much information, but anyway, and already made the bed, you know?
Well, and, it's just, and he's just, he like when I had had to do these biopsies, they were out at the UBC hospital, and Yale, and, and both of them were in the morning. He didn't go to work. He just, took me out to UBC and waited for me and brought me home. And, I mean, he's a good little hubby. I mean, he really is. And he's a very sweet man. He's just nice. His family, actually, when we got married, his family is very nice. Like his sister doesn't have a mean cell in her body. Sylvia is a wonderful person. And
I think the key to marriage, and I heard this a long time ago, and my husband and I had talked about it too, is, people say, oh, marriage isn't for me. And I say, well, if you're saying marriage isn't for you, then you're right. It's not for you, because it's not about you. It's about giving to the other person that you're married to.
Exactly.
Giving to each other.
Yeah.
And that if you're so selfish that you're making it all about you, then no, marriage is not for you.
No. Well, I take care of Yale. In other words, I make sure that if he needs to go to the doctor, or if there's something going on, I make sure that he gets himself to the doctor.
I'm sure you take care of each other.
Well, and I cook, and I do the laundry, and he sometimes helps me fold the laundry. But, and he usually showers first, even on the weekends, because I work out, and so I clean the shower every time after we.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of people will keep score. I mean, my husband will do, I'll say, hey, you're working on Monday, I can do laundry while you're at work. He doesn't always work on Mondays, but this week he is, because a guy that he works with is out of town, so he picked up his hours, and Sunday night he's coming downstairs to do the laundry.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, I don't want you to have to worry about it on Monday. So,
Well, Yale doesn't do that, but that's okay. He does plenty of other things.
Well, I'm sure he does. Yeah.
And I appreciate, what he does. He usually comes with me when I grocery shop, and I really appreciate that, because he packs the groceries. I always tell the cashier, I bring my own packer.
Yeah. Lots of times Jim will end up getting stuff on his way home from work. So I'm to the point and he'll go get stuff for his lunches. And I'm like, I have no clue where everything is in the grocery store. They reorganized the Walmart down by us. I can't find a damn thing in there because they reorganized it. I don't know where anything is. And I'm like,
he does make his own lunches.
Get the steps in today, going up and down every aisle.
Yeah. Yale, like when he takes lunch to work, he makes his own lunches. He does. But he doesn't really cook. And that's okay, because I like to cook. So, it doesn't really matter to me. But I think I told you guys that when I used to have dinner parties and they would see Yale cleaning up. So some of my friends, my girlfriends would come over to me, does he hire out? Because he's really good. He would, put all the dishes and cutlery in the dishwasher, washes, and he scrubs the pots and pans and dries them and puts them away. I mean, it's pretty good.
Well, that's what you do,
Well, that's what he does. He's
you don't keep score.
No, I don't keep score. But he helps in any way that he can. I'll put it that way.
I'm sure.
And and I appreciate that. But he's not really interested in cooking. We actually sent him to a cooking class once. He went with a friend, and the kids were waiting to see what would happen. Nothing happened. But, I told you, my son is a fabulous cook and baker.
Right.
Mark he even thought at one point, excuse me, that he would open a restaurant. And I told him, I said, that's a horrible job. It's just, it's just
never ending.
No. So I said, you don't want to do that. I said, just enjoy what you do and entertain your friends and just do it at home. And he loves to cook, and he loves to try different recipes. And it's just something that he really likes to do. And that's something that I started him with when he was, like 10 years old. But he took to it, and he enjoys it. And my daughter's a good cook too. Of course, she's a dietitian. So, and she even gives recipes to some of her clients, in terms when she does meal plans for them and so on. So, she also, is good in the kitchen. But Yale just never grew up with that. His brother was a good chef, but Roy lived on his own. So I guess he had to learn how to take care of himself. Yale knows I take care of him, so it's fine.
There you go. There you go.
Well, it's like you said, Carla, everybody does their part. So, when we go to the grocery store, also, I think I told you guys this, Yale has a calculator for a brain.
Oh,
so
yeah.
when we get to the cashier, he knows how much it's going to be because he's been adding it up as we've been walking around in the grocery store. It's very funny. But, he packs the groceries and he helps, me load it into the car. And when we get home, he helps me bring it into the house and helps me put it away.
Do you guys have to pack your own groceries in your grocery store?
Yes, at Superstore, you have to do that.
But like at a regular grocery store?
Well, even at Costco, they do sometimes have some help. But most of the grocery stores now, like it's the same thing at Safeway now, too. You pack your...
Yeah, because like we have Publix and Kroger and things like that. And, unless you do self-checkout, there's usually somebody to bag your groceries. But when I went to Europe, they didn't touch your groceries. They scanned them through and you bagged them the way you wanted to have them bagged.
Yeah. Well, we bring our own bags, so
yeah,
no big deal. But yeah, and I'm actually fine with that, especially with COVID. So they don't need to be touching everything that's coming into my house. It's fine.
Well, I kind of like packing my own because they'll put 2 things in a bag and pass it off to the end. And I'm just like overwhelmed with plastic bags.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, no, it's, we often go like in the afternoon after we've had lunch and, or else we go Saturday morning.
Mm-hmm.
We go early,
World.
shortly after the store opens. And so, we're usually in and out in about an hour. And, it's fine. I really appreciate him coming along and helping me. It's, it's nice. It's one of the things that we do together. And I just, he's a really good person. When we got married and we talked about our families, so, Yale said, yeah, I have a nice family. And I looked at him and I said, it's not a word I would use to describe anyone in my family. Well, because in my family, everyone is very smart, very opinionated, and generally very self-centered, and stubborn. So, they're not very easy to get along with. I mean, my brother's not too bad, but he can't do anything. I mean, he was a very good dentist, but well, he can't cook or clean up or do any of those things because he grew up with 3 mothers, his mother and his 2 older sisters who did everything for him. So he learned how to do anything. And my sister is very smart. She's a lawyer. She's retired now, but Lynn is very opinionated and very stubborn, and you can't change her mind. So I mean, there's no point in having an argument with her because you won't win.
You can't win.
No. So it just is the way it is, and that's okay. I mean, I'm used to that now, but I wouldn't call my siblings nice. That's not a word I would use to describe them. Interesting, smart, capable, and they're both very good athletes, but that has nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah.
So, Chris, you're waving at us. What do you want to do? You want to get started?
Mine are unique. What do you got going here, Chris, with this poll?
Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. I actually posted this poll this morning, so thank you for a great insight about how we can be better people, especially in marriages, from you guys. I greatly appreciate that. The poll today, I simply said this: can change be a net positive for everyone in our businesses today? And right now we have 5 people who voted and they've all said yes. So I wanted to start from there with this conversation is how can we create that better change? Because we know change is going to be a constant no matter where we go. It's always going to be there. But can we make it at least better for people, and again, meet them where they are? Because when that change does occur, can we embrace that change? And I even dare to say, be that change that can really take a net negative that might be in front of us that we might think that might be that net negative, but truly turn it into a net positive. So
what do you mean by a net negative and a net positive?
well, a net negative is something that's going to be just right there in the negative. Because see, when you think about it, and I'll bring it back to like restaurant terms, there's a gross and there's a net. The net's the actuality. The gross is just basically projection. But when you get into a net negative, that's actually the nitty gritty of where it is in a negative context. Or a net positive, that's really where it's at. That's the reality factor of that. What's your thoughts?
So you're talking about instead of seeing as change being a negative, seek the positive in it?
It just depends how it shows up to people, because everyone's going to be different uniquely day to day, hour by hour, month to month, whatever, because they may take a negative and they may not take it as a positive. That might be there and showing up in their model of the world at that time. But what can we do not only as people involved in the day-to-day, not only from a team member aspect, but also a leadership aspect to really create that environment with them that it can't be turned into a net positive if we just allow that environment to be created with them and they can see that and embrace that.
Well, I think, Chris, again, it depends how it's handled. And I think when change is presented in a way where people can have some input so that they feel like they've got a stake in it, you have a far better chance that they're going to accept it and run with it than when it's totally just imposed on people. Because as I said before, change is not something that human beings really like that much. But if it's handled in a way where they've had some input, and maybe it was even their idea, whatever the change is going to be, you have a far better chance that they're going to get on board and do it. And that's why with leaders, like John Maxwell says, listen, learn, lead. If you don't listen, you're not going to learn anything. And if you don't listen, you will miss opportunities, because your people who are on the front lines might be able to come up with a process that's more efficient, that's more effective. They might even come up with an idea for a new service or a new product that might enhance what we're already doing in this organization. And I think it's just a matter of how do you deal with it? And when you listen to your people and then you give them credit for what they come up with, they will continue to provide suggestions and continue to be creative, because that's what it is when they're coming up with these things. And when you listen to them, they will continue to come up with things. Hi, Maya. It's nice to see you. So, it's just a matter of what are we doing? And if you deal effectively with your people and lead them well because you listen well, then you're going to have way more opportunities and way more buy-in from your people. And that's really what you want. And change is important. We talked about this yesterday, because it's an opportunity to learn something. You're going to learn a new way to do something, or you're going to learn something entirely new to do. And, you're growing yourself and moving forward. And that's very important for human beings to be doing their whole life. It's very important. And that's why change is good, because we get to learn something new. We get to try something different, or we get to, do what we've been doing, but in a slightly different way, or whatever. It doesn't matter, but it's an opportunity to grow. And that's very important for human beings, because then they don't get bored and they don't turn into a robot. And, because our brains, and I've told you this, our brains are designed to create new neurons as long as we're alive, but only if we challenge it to open new neural pathways, which means we have to learn new things. And if we do that, then our brain stays healthy. If we don't, people who retire and have no plan to stay mentally or physically active go downhill very quickly. It's actually very sad to see. But people who have a plan to keep mentally active and physically active are going to stay healthier. I mean, it's one of the reasons why Yale is still practicing law. A lot of people think, oh, you're so old. Why are you still practicing? Well, first of all, he likes practicing. And secondly, it keeps him sharp because he's got to be solving problems and dealing with situations, and so it keeps his brain sharp. He's got an amazing memory. I mean, he really does. And part of it is because of what he's doing. And I think it's very important to stay on top of things. And people who don't, I'm sorry, you're not going to have a very good life. It's too bad. I mean, it's the reason why when my son dared me, I told you, to turn this training into a business, he was right. I didn't know how much longer I was going to be able to practice hygiene because I was suffering physically. But I need something to do. I have way too much energy and I need an outlet. And so this was an opportunity to take something that I was enjoying doing anyway and turn it into my work. And so, it's just, it was good Mark dared me.
For sure. For sure.
Gotta love your kids,
Yeah. Well, I agree what you're saying, Sandy, and I think it all is in how you present it.
Yeah.
That if you can identify a problem and maybe point out how it's negatively impacting the situation or the business or whatever, and then turn in a possible solution to it is to make this change and even open it up to, this is my initial thought. What do you all think? You guys are on the front line, edifying the people that are out there doing it. You get much greater, there's a bug in my office. You get much greater participation from the people that are on the front line, and they feel like they've been heard. They feel like they have had an input into the situation, and you can easily say this that's going on negatively needs to be fixed because, and here's some suggestions, and come up with a group suggestion, and it will automatically turn into a positive because people see why it's going to be better.
I look at it as at the rate of sounding kind of in the middle ground here, having both sides discussed, discuss their reasoning for being the way that they are, and then at the same time, why giving up? Why having a moment where they feel like they don't want to do it anymore. Only reason why I say that is because I've had with my family, we've had both sides. My grandmother, she decided, I've been working too long. I just don't want to do it anymore. And I just want to call it quits. Now she had 5 kids, she had 3 jobs. She raised 3 other families. It was just, we understood. She was exhausted. She didn't want to do it anymore. Besides, I think the thing that she did learn, however, was I'm going to watch my Jeopardy and my Wheel of Fortune and play my crossword puzzles. And she thought that was all she needed, but that wasn't it for her, and so it was just that decline of not really getting into being challenged, which I thought that kind of made her which I do believe made her health kind of decline at that point, and then it was more so we think we know everything, right? We think we understand what it was going to take for us not to go one way, but it's not. And now the rest of her children are fearful of going that way. My mother has been in college for 35 years and refuses to let it go. We were like, you're going to take another course. This is what you're going to do. Yes, I need to keep learning. I'm not going to end up like my mama, because she's now retired. And so it's just like, okay, mama, you going to do another class? Yes, I'm thinking about doing art. You know what? Maybe some classes, taking some pictures, and different things like that. So it was always something different because she felt like she didn't want to stay where she was used to, because she's been a secretary for years, 35 plus years. And she's just like, yeah, she did, the backgrounding and in science and technologies and all these different things. And I thought it was interesting because I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I guess if that's not going to be your end of all, you got to do something different. And she did art. She did wonderful in art. And Lord only knows what she's going to do now. I really don't know. I mean, it could be a whole surprise. Here we go, Christmas. You're like, oh, and by the way, I'm doing, and you're like, oh, okay. No, that makes sense. But yeah, no, I understand, we don't want everybody to stop. We don't want them to stop learning. We don't want them to give up on not pushing forward and learning at the pace to whereas they're not gonna have issues with their health, and I think that's super important. What you said, Sandra, you pulled it. Yes, you did. She got it.
Yeah, and thank you, Meyer, for sharing your insights today. We're glad you're here again. And Christine, hello. Hopefully, everything was a great vacation for you and your husband in Hawaii. Glad that you're back watching us today. And she agrees with you, Sandy. And she says that communication is the key. And Graham said this: we could think about using future based language. A future based approach to language does not describe how the situation occurs. Instead, this kind of language transforms how it occurs. It does this by rewriting the future. And that's a unique take. And of course, that's why also I've learned from Brian so much, Graham. And that's a great way to really think about it. And I love that. But also, I want to share with you guys this YouTube video that I just actually looked up while you guys were talking, is how changing your mindset can help you embrace change, about by Manu Shati from a TEDx conference that she did some number of years ago. So I'm going to let her kind of explain her point of view when it comes how does changing your mindset to help you embrace the change. And I even say, like I said before, to be that change. So here's Manu talking about how to change your mindset to embrace the change.
We are introduced to change the day we are born. We make space, we change relationships, we change lives, and we make space for ourselves because we are now going to be exposed to change. We build our immune system towards change over a period of time. There are people out there who have a great immune system. They accept change without a problem. There are people like me who actually develop an immune system towards change with time and experiences and age. And then there are people that I often meet who are totally scared of the word change because change is powerful. I want you to think of a moment in your life when something so impactful has actually shaped your journey where you are today or contributed it in some form. Change, when it happens, the chances are when you were thinking of that moment, you remember when it happened, what exactly you were doing at that point, and how it impacted you. That is the point of origin of change. I am here today to take you from that point of origin to the 4 steps that you will follow and see where you've come with that change. Change comes in 2 forms. It can be planned, it can be unplanned. Planned change is simple. It's something that we have actually feel a need, a want, and a desire to change something in our life. We actually initiate the change and bring it into action. However, the results can be totally unexpected. Me moving into this country was a planned change. Getting married to a man I had never met was another planned change. Going back to work was a planned change. And selling my business was another calculated change I made in my life. All 4 have different results. Some are work in progress, some had to be changed further. But however, Going back to work was a planned change, but leaving my job was unplanned. It was in 2001 that I took my then 2.5-year-old daughter to an emergency room thinking she has a fracture. It was planned all night that I will take a day off, my husband will take a day off, and we will head to the emergency room. And we went thinking she has a fracture. We came out with her diagnosis of leukemia. I was at that point sitting on the first step of change called denial. That is typically happens when you wake up in the morning and you hear that you've lost a loved one, you go to work and you've lost your job, or in my case, my 2.5-year-old was diagnosed with leukemia. I was sitting on the first steps of denial day 1, crying, day 2, crying, day 3, crying, till somebody walked up to me in the emergency room and said to me that emotional pain lasts only 20 minutes. Rest is all self-inflicted. You need to actually get up and take care of someone because someone needs you right now. So that was the first hand that came in my life that took me from stage 1 of denial to the second stage of acceptance. I moved into the next stage of acceptance, and acceptance again can have two phases. There are people who accept change in a different way. They will go into substance abuse, they will go take help from alcohol, or actually walk away from the situation. I had a friend whose son was diagnosed. His father decided to walk out of the situation because he couldn't handle the change. Then there is the other aspect of change where we are strong enough to take help from those, our loved ones, our church members, our community members, books, Automobile University, like podcasts. We just find strength. And I found strength in a book called Where There Is Light. And that is the book I held on to because change is a very, very powerful coach. You can learn as much as you can from that word change because change can change its mind anytime. And that's what change did to me. We had yet again planned a day that was Jan 13th of 2004 that we decided to celebrate the end of the treatment for our 2.5-year-old daughter who was now 5. And we were celebrating, eating a nice dinner when the telephone call rang at 8:30 p.m., letting us know that she had a relapse. Suddenly, I was on the steps of denial one more time, sitting there asking myself this question: what did I do now? Why me? Where did we go wrong? Because I'm again on the steps of denial. But then there are people that you meet in your life and you often go, that person has so many series of misfortunate, unfortunate events that happen. It does. And at that point, saying my stay at the steps of denial was a little longer this time. But then I realized I had the experience of acceptance. So I moved on to the next stage of acceptance. And when I was there, I had her oncologist, the second person in my life who walked up to me and said that it was his job to make her healthy and my job to make her happy. And he took me to the next stage of managing a new you, which was called the maintenance phase. We moved there and we accepted what was there. And the rule number 1 when you move on to acceptance is never ever compare your life to what it was yesterday. It's a new life, it's a new you. So don't compare your life to what it was yesterday. Don't compare your life to somebody else whose life is perfect because your normal now is different from everybody else's normal. We're going to create a new normal. And that's when my 5-year-old asked a question: Mom, I got the diagnosis the second time. Will Make-A-Wish Foundation, which grants wishes to kids with life-threatening medical conditions, grant me another wish? And then I told her they have a one-wish policy. She says, but I got it twice. I'm like, yeah. And that time, she had a 6-inch tool in her hand, dipped in color, and she was painting. And that time I told her, we're gonna actually change something this time. And I looked at her and said, we're gonna go ahead and change and make this black and white life colorful. You're gonna go ahead and paint and see if you can spread this magic everywhere else. She goes, what does that mean? We're gonna grant wishes instead. So 3 things happened at that particular stage. 1, that 5-year-old girl at that point found her journey. She found healing, she found hope, she found life, and she found herself in that journey. And she today found her career in that journey too, that she painted and gave hope to herself, and she recovered faster in that particular process. Second thing that happened in that journey is I found myself as a woman, as a mother, as a wife, as a friend, And I found the meaning of my name Manu, which meant making a new you. What that meant to me was that I found myself that I was wasting time in doing so many things that were not even important. And then if I had not had this situation in my life, I would be a regular family just dealing to 9 to 5 job and trying to do the work-life balance. And here I am actually spending quality time with my daughter. And the third thing that happened, which was never planned by anybody at this point, was that that magic of her painting was spreading everywhere. She sold her first painting for $40 and her last for $90,000. She raised $200,000 by just selling her art and donated every single penny to Make-A-Wish Foundation. We did not realize that the magic of her giving and her coloring was coloring so many people's life and helping kids with life-threatening medical conditions that at that point, we realized that one of the charity events, a 6-year-old girl came up to me and said, "Did you know that I have named my teddy bear after your daughter, Janvi?" And she was the third person in my life who actually took my hand and took me to the fourth stage called growth. Standing on the fourth stage of growth, I looked back and I saw, oh my gosh, I have come through denial, acceptance, to managing my life. And here we are on growth, that we have actually changed lives of people that we never met. So I would like to wrap up this conversation, this talk, with this word called Kinsugi. Kinsugi is a Japanese term meaning they repair a crack in a ceramic with gold. Every single person is broken in some form. Any accidents of time, broken relationships can actually be repaired, and that valuable experience that you have when you're repairing that becomes gold. Do not let it go waste, because you don't know who's watching you. You don't know at this point that who's going to cross your path in life and actually learn from you. But more importantly, at that point, when you have that valuable experience, you are actually ready for the next unexpected change in your life. So you are the most precious thing out there. So do not hide your scars. Don't hide your broken relationships, and fill it up with the valuable experiences, because change is very powerful. And in this whole journey, every single one of you is making a new you. Thank you.
Now, isn't that powerful, ladies? What's your thoughts?
She did a very good job, Chris. And it's very true, especially when you're watching your child suffer with, some kind of terrible disease or whatever. And I mean, how good for her to sort of step back and accept it and help her child through it and everything else. And by doing that, it helped her through it. So, what she did was really good. And the child helped herself. That was kind of interesting too, that with her painting, she helped herself and helped others by donating the money that she got from selling her paintings. And what a good kid. I mean, seriously. But it's just, life is never a long, straight, smooth road. It doesn't work that way. There are always going to be challenges and boulders and washouts and, whatever. And what we have to do is we have to try very hard to stay positive and to problem solve some of these things. And it is, of course, very hard when somebody so close to you, especially a youngster, gets cancer and is very sick. It's hard to deal with it because you're watching this child struggle. And why should they at such a young age have to struggle like this? But you have to be positive and help your child to be positive so that they can turn it around. And they did. And that was partly because of her attitude and partly that she helped her kid to be more positive. And then the treatments work better. It's just, a lot of it is a mindset. And if you can come out of these situations with a good result, like she said, it does set you up to deal with the next tragedy, whatever that may be, stronger, because you have more background and experience in dealing with some of these very difficult situations. And it's hard to accept these things. I mean, I lost both my parents 5 years apart from cancer, and neither of them were very old. They were both 69 when they died. And, in this day and age, that's not very old. And it was very hard on my siblings. And they all came to me and they went, yeah, well, now you're the senior member of the family. I'm going, oh my God. So it's just, it was what it was. And my brother was very mad at my mom because in that generation, excuse me, she did find a lump. This was breast cancer that killed her, but she didn't go to the doctor right away. And by the time she went, it had already metastasized and it spread to her brain and to her bones. And she was in so much pain. I mean, Dave had to go over there every couple of days and give her an injection so that, to deal with the pain. And it was terrible to watch. And it was just so sad because my mom was a very smart woman and very capable. And it was just terrible to watch her suffer like this. But, she didn't go soon enough. So when my sister was diagnosed, Lynn went right away and she had multiple sites. So she ended up with a mastectomy. And I was just waiting for my turn. And so every time that I went for my mammogram, I was just wondering if it was going to be this time they were going to find something. And about 5.5 years ago, they did find something. And it was exactly the same kind of tumor that my sister had, only I only had one small tumor. And when the radiologist finished taking out enough samples to send to the lab, she said to me, because she knew me very well and she knew my family history, she said, Sandy, I don't care what it says. When these results come back, you're getting the rest of that out no matter what, just because of your history. And I actually had the same surgeon who did the mastectomy for my sister because she specializes in breast cancer. And when I went to see her, my sister came with me. And the surgeon looks at me and she goes, okay, well, here are your choices. You can have a double mastectomy, you can have a single mastectomy, or you can have a lumpectomy with radiation. So I looked at her and I said, well, if it's okay with you, I'll go with door number 3. So she laughed and she said, well, I've read all the reports. And she said, I think that'll probably be fine. And so because when the radiologist took out the samples to send away, she said to me, I have to insert a titanium clip because there isn't much tumor left. And I want the surgeon to be able to find it. I went, fine. So she was able to get a clear margin around what was left of the tumor. And as well, she took out a couple of lymph nodes from under my arm because that's how cancer metastasizes through our lymph system. And the lymph nodes were clear too. So I had a number of radiation treatments for a couple of months. And that was like 6 years ago. And I go for a diagnostic mammogram every year. I tell people I glow in the dark. But anyway.
And hold your breath every time you go.
Well, and the thing is this, Carla, I started getting mammograms in my 30s because that's when my mom was diagnosed with cancer. I had my daughter do it early like that too. So I really, probably do glow in the dark. But anyway, the point is that they've never found anything and it's never turned up on my other breast, and neither has it for my sister, even though she had multiple sites in the breast that was taken off. Mm-hmm. So we just stay on top of this. Because you have to. I mean, when you have that history in your family, your very best chance with cancer is early detection. You get it early, you have a pretty good chance of, them surgically removing it, and you should be fine. But it's, it's something that you have to stay on top of, especially when you have a family history like I do. I mean, it killed my mother, it killed my father, it killed one of my first cousins, it killed one of my aunts and one of my uncles. And I mean, it's so rampant in our family that you have to stay on top of it. And that's the reason why with this thing on my thyroid, I just told the ENT guy, I don't care. I just want it out. I just don't want to be worrying about it sitting there. What's going to happen? I just want it gone. He said, no problem. We'll take it out for you.
Yeah.
So, that's what's going to happen. But it's just a matter of, again, what is your attitude about these things? And I was sort of waiting. I was sort of waiting for my turn, Carla. I figured it would show up at some point. But, I didn't worry about it between visits, but always the night before the mammogram, I'm thinking, well, they're going to find it this time, But it's just a matter of you have to do those things. And that's why I had my daughter start going in her 30s. My daughter's had cervical cancer. But she's got a really good GP. And they found that very early. And it was also very small. And she had it removed, and that was 5 years ago, and there's been no return. and she's not had any other problems with it. But it's just a matter of, again, what are you doing? And I even told my son, as I said to Mark, it's not that common that men get breast cancer, but
They do.
some do. So I said, with our family history, because my daughter-in-law phoned me one day and she said, Mark's quit getting regular checkups. I said, what are you talking about? He doesn't go to the doctor once a year? No, he figures he's very healthy. He doesn't need to. I said, put him on the phone. So he gets on the phone and I said, Mark, you have to go to the doctor regularly because you have to get all the blood tests and whatever, because there's always a range, and what's normal for you is within that range, whatever it is. And if there's a change, at least they have a place to start looking for a problem. But if you don't get those tests regularly, they don't know, they won't find it because they don't know where to start looking. So it's very important. So he said to me, I said, go back to the doctor. So Kim phoned me a couple of days later. She said, he made an appointment. I said, good. And if that ever happens again, phone me again, because he's not going to get away with this.
Mama has to go.
Well, he is strong and healthy. I mean, there's no question about that. He eats well, he exercises, and, he takes care of himself. But that doesn't mean that you can't get, some of these things. And
you still can't get breast cancer. You can still get, as a guy, you can still get breast cancer. You can still get prostate cancer. You got to get those checked and do the PSA.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it's very important. And that's why I said to Mark, I said, you've got a science background. You should know better than this. Go to the doctor. So, it's just a matter of understanding why you have to do it, because medicine is not that easy. And at least if the doctor has a place to start in terms of something that's off, then you have a far better chance that they're going to catch it early enough that they'll be able to help you. But it's very important to do that on a regular basis. And people who don't are putting themselves at risk. And, it's not fair to your family either. So you need to do it, especially when you have a history like we do in our family. It's very important to get checked on a regular basis. And that's why I gave Mark.
Well, I don't know if you all have done any testing, but 1% of the population, men can get the BRCA1 gene from their family and actually have breast cancer that's genetically related.
Yeah.
So it's important that if you have a family history like that, to get tested to see if you have that gene in your family. And guys just automatically think, I'm a guy, I can't get it. And yes, you can get it.
Yes, you can get it. Well, actually, I was tested, Carla. I actually went one time and they took, some tissue and they sent it to a lab in the States. And I don't have that gene. I don't have that BRCA gene. So, it came back and they couldn't find anything. I don't have any, cancer-related genetics that would, but I just figure, it doesn't matter. My mother had it, my sister had it. I figured it was just going to be my turn at some point anyway. So you have to stay on top of it. And that's why I go for my diagnostic one. I mean, they do it. It's not the same as a screening. It's more, I guess, specific and so on and so forth. And where I go, they do a very good job. The technicians are really excellent.
That's good.
And so, and I've been going there for years. And as I said, the radiologist, I know her very well. And Paula used to call me after my mammograms. You're fine.
Yeah, that's
She would actually phone me. The radiologist would call me.
Well,
But
to get a cancer diagnosis in the family, talk about changing your life. It can totally flip your world upside down. And I find that the people that do better with it are the people that have a very positive attitude.
Yeah.
You
have to have a positive attitude. I think that, a lot of it is mind over matter. If you just figure, yep, I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to do it. And the people at the cancer clinic were lovely. I mean, they were very supportive and very nice and very, I felt very comfortable when I went there. And I thanked them. And I told my doctor afterwards that, I really felt comfortable there and I felt like everybody had my best interests at heart and they really took good care of me. And he said, yeah, they're very good at the cancer clinic. We, give them special training and so forth. And I said, well, whatever they're doing a good job because the people there are really good. I never came across anybody who wasn't supportive and encouraging and all those kinds of things. And so, it makes it easier. And, it's just a matter of what are you doing? You have to take care of yourself for yourself and for your family. And, the last thing you want to do is make your kids crazy because which is what my parents did. I mean, both of them. I mean, we were all, my dad was so sick because he had lung cancer. And, he needed to have his lungs drained at least once a day, sometimes more often. And, he was determined he was going to beat this. And I'm sorry, it was just such a mess. It spread to his esophagus and to his spine. And he was a mess. And it was very sad. And it was the same thing with my mom because she didn't go to the doctor soon enough. So, it spread to her brain and affected her memory and spread to her bones. And she was in a great deal of pain. And it was terrible to watch. It really was. And so, in fact, her doctor was my doctor at the time. And Isaac phoned me one day. He said, "Did you talk to your mom today?" I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, because something's wrong. You better go over there." So I did. And guess what? She was on the floor. She'd fallen and she couldn't get up. I said, "Why didn't you call me?" She said, "Well, you're busy." I said,
Well,
"Mom."
that's something my dad would do. Yeah.
Mom. So anyway, I phoned the doctor back. I said, "You were right." He said, "Well, we need to put her into respite." I said, "Okay." So we did.
But it's amazing how people get stuck in denial, like she was talking about in the video. And it is, it's a part of grieving, if you're going through a loss, and it's a part of change too. But it's sometimes things happen for the worst, so to speak, and you have to work your way through it.
Yeah. You don't have a
You
choice.
can't get stuck in denial, because denial's not going to add to your life. I mean, when my mom was going through herself, she was like, I'm going to beat this because I don't like the plan B.
Fair enough. Good for her. I like her attitude.
And she did it for 10 years, but she made the choice that she couldn't go on, and that was her decision. But, she lived the life that she wanted to live.
Oh,
Because she didn't like the plan B.
fair enough.
So I got two choices. Plan A, I got to beat it, or plan B, not beat it. And I don't like plan B.
Yeah.
Chris,
Wow.
didn't you say something? Chris,
Yeah.
you trying to?
So this is what shows up for me. What you just said, Sandy, and even Christine even said it's all about attitude. But I like what you said about the prevention of it, especially in business today. And this is what shows up for me in relative to change. If we can be in a mindset of, like I said, embracing the change, but yet be the change, when those things that show up to us in a negative light, whatever that might be, could we get to a point that we have the mindset across the board that it is going to have the things in line with one another, that it can be that preventative measure, that it's just like a cancer. If you get rid of the cancer right and nip it at the bud, then it doesn't necessarily metastasize and then go out throughout the culture. And if you can do that, that will create a better result down the line, because you're not letting that, like I said, metastasize and be there and to grow. And then next thing you know, the whole culture is now gone. And that's what I was thinking about in that context. What's your thoughts on that, Maya?
I agree. There's a lot of things that we could have prevented, but because we hadn't, we were either one, we were scared, or two, like we just want to ignore it. If you ignore it, it'll go away. That's what the older people used to say. Oh, well, if you just ignored it, it'll go away. It'll go. And I don't think that's altogether true, but that's kind of gone down with generation, and it's gotten worse, to the point where it's like they had to see their parents or grandparents go through so much in that aspect. Like, well, I mean, they made it look easy, or they made it not look as hard as they said it was, and you can only go off of what people tell you. But that's never a good thing. Like, cancer is hard. Cancer is extremely hard. I watched my auntie. She had breast cancer, and it spread to her brain as well, and it took her out in like 2 weeks. And we were like, wait, what? She's in a hospice? What is it? Like, she was just running a 5K. What are you talking about? And so that was a horrific thing, because she only had one child, and it was only her. And it was just bad, because just to see the diminishing of family, because now she was so hell bent after her mother passed away. She didn't want to deal with nobody on our family at all. And so we lost her, not only her mother, but we lost her, and we wanted to be there for her, but she was just pushing us away, because she thought she didn't have anyone. And I think that's more cancerous. Well, not more, but as cancerous as her mother having it. And that was just really, really hard. She was everybody's favorite auntie, and then, I mean, we all took it pretty hard, and like, she was the one that we didn't see it until she was gone, but she was actually the glue that actually held us all together. And now we're all in different areas, and nobody's seeing nobody. We might call you, but that was it. So our family has dispersed after something like that, and it's just hard. And so it's just like, you have some of the sisters, they're trying to put it together, and like, hey, you better be here, yeah, your threats doesn't do it for us anymore. She's gone. Because, yeah, you didn't want her to think about it, because she would jump in a car, come to your house, and grab you by the ear and be like, you go get in this car, and we gonna go somewhere. And that was that. But yeah, I mean, to see a family disperse in that way because of something someone else decided that they weren't going to do for themselves. It wasn't just for you, it was for the whole family. You're not thinking or seeing this properly, So, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't want to take us down that road, but stuff happens, like, I know, with the woman that was just speaking, she was saying, like, she was dealing with it, in a way that, I mean, yes, it really, I mean, it weighs on you, but at the same time, we're not thinking about anybody outside of this circle. So it's you and your child and your husband, and if there's any other siblings, but you're not seeing how the family as a unit, how that's being affected, because now everybody's watching you and how you decide that you're going to handle these situations. And that's hard. It's hard, but at the same time, you do have family that's there to help support you in any way possible. Just know that it's not just you. You can't look at the mirror every time.
So Carla, let me go to you on that point from I just laid out there. Can we even flip that round into a team dynamic, even from a family dynamic? Can we make that flip?
You're on mute, Carla.
Make it like a team dynamic in terms of the workplace.
Yes.
Well, I to me, they're two separate things. It They're just, to me, I don't know about you, but they're two separate things to me. You know, there's family and family dynamics and things going on with the family, and then there's the work dynamic. And I'm thinking, you know, in terms of an illness or something, that usually people will gather together to see what they can do to help the family out or whatever. But I know in terms of people dying, I mean, the people realize that there's family out there to help them. But you know, I have a really close friend of mine that died 12 years ago from breast cancer, and we worked together. And you know, like the final 2 weeks of her life, I never even got to see her. I was getting updates from the family, you know, and I had to be respectful of the fact that they wanted to be together in their tiny little bubble. And the last thing that she was thinking about was about work or the people at work. Or, you know, she knew that there were a lot of people out there that cared about her and wanted to do something, but she was just focusing on that tight family unit, her 2 girls and her husband at the time. In terms of a work situation, I take it back to, like I said, it's 2 different things. I don't think that work situations and work problems and things changing in the workplace and things like that are on the same level as a personal loss or a personal struggle, like this mom
Right,
has a
and I get
child
that. Absolutely, I get that. But see,
who's
what
dealing
I'm
with
trying to get
leukemia.
to is how, like what Maya was just saying, there will be people there that will be there to support you, and
Right.
that dynamic is there. That's what I'm trying to get to, is how can we flip that same dynamic from the family dynamic and bring that into the work dynamic. That's
Well,
all.
it's just like what she was saying about her aunt who was not reaching out to those people that want to support her. There may be a slew of people in the workplace that want to support whatever the issue is that's going on, but it's in this closed environment and they're not looking at the big picture. I just can't relate the 2 of them together because one of them is a lot more personal. You know, like she was talking about her family, and she doesn't even deal with the niece anymore. My mom was the glue to her side of the family with her sister that was out in 2 sisters that lived out in California, and I have a slew of cousins that I haven't seen since the 90s because that family dynamic, that glue, that one person that brought everybody together is no longer there.
I understand what Chris was trying to say. How do we bring some form, not necessarily the exact form, but some form of the familyhood? You know, not to say that, you know, oh, that's my cousin, that's my brother, that's my uncle,
Mhm.
these are these people, but in a retrospect of the togetherness and holding some type of accountability, you know, in that way, which kind of makes I understand that, you know, we try to do things like that when there's certain events, you know, sometimes, oh, well, there's about to be an event, you know, we're gonna have teams, and you get that team and you got to be accountable for your team, and your team has to win, or you know, but when you come together, you're able to do things like that because you're stronger together than you are apart. And so I think maybe Chris, was that kind of where you were going? I'm sorry, I don't want to assume.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I truly believe the dynamic are interconnected to one another. I know they're going to be separate, different things unto
Right,
themselves, but I think the dynamics can work in both realms
right,
because
like
the
a
family,
teamwork. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because they're both going to be talking about the human connection, the human dynamic, because you're going to look at your family as a human being nonetheless, just like we will do in the workplace. they're human beings nonetheless. There's going to be a different level of the know, like, and trust factor and the love and all that kind of stuff when it comes to the family. Get it, got it, good. But, we can also even bring that into our workplaces. That's going to be not as high of an importance factor, but it's still going to be in some way, shape, or form there too as well. And that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, no, I understand because, like, okay, most of the time, right, I do believe we spend more time with our coworkers than we do at home. Or we spend more time, and a lot of the times we'll have like some in-depth conversation, especially when you have that I'm here now, but I'm dealing with this crap back home, you know, and you got to talk, just talk it out, say what you will, I'm feeling this way. They're going to see the reactions, they're going to see, how you're trying to handle certain situations and different things like that. And I get that, sometimes they could actually be just as close to, this reminds me of a quote, some of the elders used to say to us. They said, you know what, sometimes it seems like your friends might be just better for you because you chose them, unlike your family, which did not, and a lot of the times you can get stabbed in the back real quick by your family, and then you got my bestie over here gonna always be there with me. They have everything in my, at the disposal, and they know me for the simple fact that we've had those type conversations. So that's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
So let's do final thoughts and call to action. And thank you, Christine and Graham and Brian, for all the great comments today. And I'll start with you, Miss Carla. What is your final thoughts and your call to action?
You're muted,
You're on
dear.
mute.
Try that again. Third time's the charm. My final call to action would probably be to work as a team to solve problems and look at the positives as opposed to the negatives. I know I've worked in work situations where everyone is quick to, it's not going to work because of this. It's not going to work because of that. And it's like, okay, so how are we going to be positive and make this work? How are we going to solve this particular problem? And think positive.
Miss Sandy?
Well, I agree again. It's all about the attitude, Chris. And, in some cases, you may not feel comfortable talking to people that you work with about an intimate family issue. You may not. I mean, you may or you may not. It depends on your relationship with the people that you work with. And yes, you do spend a lot of time with them, but it doesn't mean that you want to share all your very personal issues with them. But I think in the family situation, like I know with our parents, I mean, my siblings and I are pretty close, and we were supportive of each other, and we're very supportive of our parents, and, tried to go through this the best we could. And when my sister got sick, she phoned me. She said, well, what if I die? I said, you're not going to die. And then she said, well, if I do, who's going to look after my kids? I said, I'll look after your kids. It's just, and of course she didn't die, but
You scared her into living, Sandra.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a matter of what are you doing and what are you saying to people and how are you supporting them? And again, it all has to do with positivity. And I think if we look at it in a way that, this isn't going to go away by itself, but if we get the appropriate medical support and so on and so forth, we can probably deal with this, and hopefully it can get solved and we can move on. And it's just a matter of how you approach it and how you deal with it. And again, it was very difficult because, as I said, we lost both our parents within 5 years of each other. And it was hard to watch them suffer, which they did. And we spent a lot of time in the hospital and, so on and so forth, just being with them so that we could, have those last hours, if you will, and feel like we were contributing in some way, shape, or form. but it's just a matter of, how you look at these things. And I think, some families aren't that close. So those people maybe are closer to their friends. I mean, with my friends, I had so many offers of people who would take me to my cancer appointments, whatever. My brother, who even, and I was surprised. Dave said, "Well, just phone me and I'll pick you up." I mean, it was very surprising because that's not usually the way he is, but he was concerned. And so he offered to help, by driving me. And I think that it depends on your relationship with the people that you work with and the people who are in your family. And yes, when you have somebody who's the glue that sticks everyone together, Maya, it is hard when you lose that person. I mean, one of my cousins, my first cousin, just passed away about a year ago, and she passed away from lung cancer. Jackie was a smoker, but she hadn't smoked for many years. And my sister and our other first cousin and Jackie and I used to get together about every 3 months and have dinner and, catch up on our kids and so on and so forth. So she was like another sister to me. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we couldn't visit her in the hospital. And so we couldn't really say goodbye. And it was very hard on us because we couldn't do that. I mean, I texted her and she texted me back, but I couldn't hug her or, do any of the things that I would have liked to have done because we weren't allowed to visit her in the hospital because it was only immediate family that could visit her. And that was hard. That was really hard. And I still miss her. And I felt terrible. I mean, when I went in Judaism, what they do is after the person has died, the family has something called Shiva. And the service is at their home. And you go there and you spend time with them. And at the unveiling of her headstone, they had a ceremony at the cemetery. And then we all went back to one of her son's houses. And everybody, her friends and the family all came back there. And it was so hard. And I said to her boys, I said, "I can't believe your mom's gone." And they said, "No, we can't either." Because she was so full of life and she was so positive. And it's just hard, and her husband's just beside himself. But, and what was so important to Jackie was her grandbabies. That's what she called her grandsons, my grandbabies. And she just loved them to pieces. And, it's hard to watch those kinds of things, especially somebody who's so close in age to you, to watch her suffer and, all the things that happened. It was really hard. I felt terrible for the family. And my brother actually came down from Whistler because he was a pallbearer at the funeral. And he, helped carry her coffin to the grave. But he didn't come for the unveiling. He said he just couldn't. It was just too hard on him. And I understood that. I mean, it's a 2-hour drive, each way. And he just didn't want to do it again. So, he phoned me, says, "Well, how did it go?" So, I filled him in. But it's just, I think that when you're close to your family, sometimes having outsiders come in and deal with things is not necessarily that comfortable. But if you're not close to your family, but you're very close to friends and, whatever, then yeah, the support from them is very important. So it's just a matter of what your setup is and how close you are to your family or to your friends or, whatever. I mean, I have some very close friends who are, who that I've known since I was like 4 years old. And they still, because we are still all in Vancouver, I still see them. And, for most of us, our kids went to school together. And, like with one of my closest friends, her husband's from Calgary and so's Yale. They knew each other in Calgary. Like it's sometimes a very small world. But it's just a matter of what works for you. And I think that's in the end what you have to deal with is what works for you. And I think as long as we can be as positive as possible and get the support from those that are most important to us, then we can get through this. And that's what we have to do. Because in the end, you have to get through it. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You just don't have a choice.
So Maya, what's your final thoughts and your call to action? And here's Graham's call to action. Graham said, "Call to action to continue to explore future-based language and the benefits of using it when I want to change." Maya, your thoughts?
Oh. But I would have to agree with Carla. How she was saying there. I guess for us all, like we all have different ways of looking at this. There's so many different ways, and depending on how we dealt with it or looked at it, going forward, it just makes you pay attention that much more to what you do or who you speak to and how you speak to them. Um, I do, which is odd to me because I'm the black sheep, of my family, and so me not really being as close to them or to any degree. And then it's just me. I am a solopreneur. Well, no, I can't even be that no more. I got staff. Okay, so yeah, so it's just more so like I do hold people that I meet and I have a connection with in the highest regard in that way. Only because like not everybody's gonna know what I'm dealing with. Like you said, you don't want your people at work to know everything, nor do I want the people that I am related to know everything. So it just makes it harder for me. So I would say my call to action would have to be super careful who I keep in my circle because my inner circle is super important to me. Half of my inner circle just moved to all different states now, and I'm like, oh, why are you gone? But I mean, what can I do? And I just try to hold on to my girls. My girls are grown, so that's always a good thing, but a bad thing because now they don't live that close to me either. But I mean, you just got to really reassess everything that you are dealing with and in life. That would be my call to action. I would definitely have to reassess the situation for myself. But definitely, I agree with these beautiful women. Like, I mean, it's difficult, especially when dealing with death. That's not easy. You say you love people to death. You don't want to love them to death. You want to love them to life. You want to do that thing. You want them to still be here. But unfortunately, that's not the end all for what we're doing now, which is life. Unfortunately, but just love on the people that you can. Love on the people you can. Make it well known. Hey, this is my friend. And I love my friend because we get to talk. And this person makes me feel good about being alive. And I'm okay with that. So,
Well, thank you so much, Maya. And this is from Christine. She says it is important to lean on those around you for support when you're dealing with major change, whether it to be in family or in the workplace. Everyone deals with the change differently. It's important that we also support those around us who are struggling with the changes. And that's absolutely right, Christine. And we're glad to have you a part of bringing humanity together. Um, my simple call to action will be simply this: understand the change, respond to the change, and then through the power of intentionality, the power of positivity, and the power of possibility, be that change. And if you can be that change, that's going to be that net positive for people, even though you may have a negative day ahead of you, you can take that and flip that around because, like what Sandy said, it is definitely a mindset. And if you have that mindset to say, I am going to do this and I will do this and this is what I'm going to do, yeah, if you can just do that and keep moving forward, because it's like what Sylvester Stallone said in one of his Rocky movies: life is going to be the hardest hitter around. It's not about how hard you get hit, it's about how hard you get hit and keep moving forward. Not only can we do that in our workplaces today, but we can also do that in life itself. So, again, ladies, thank you so much for the great and engaging conversation today. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Brian. And we'll see you everybody tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour. Have a great one, everyone.
Bye.